BMRform.com and BMRodds.com. What is going on, boys? What is going on? Welcome back to the lobby, episode number 86. As always, my esteemed colleagues, first and foremost, Mr. Donnie Rightside. What's up, Donnie?
Feeling good, man. As you can see my name down there underneath it. Eagles are 8-2, play the Rams this weekend, then a follow-up game against the Ravens the next week here. Things are looking good here for my Eagles. Not so much for some other teams in the NFC East, but hey, could be worse at this time. Thanksgiving next week. Everything rolls on, boys. Good time of the year.
Yes, it is for sure. And then switching from the opposite side of an 8-2 Eagles, we go down to Sammy's tagline and the Cowboys.
RIP Cowboys. Now we're at the point where we're betting against them every week and making money. So, as you know, at the start of the season, there's a lot of hope. So you got to bet them every week to win. Now the smart side is bet against them. And actually, Cowboys, if you're really thinking long term, are in a decent position to continue to lose because they don't need a quarterback. So if they keep losing, not on purpose, just because they stink and Cooper Rush stinks, they can get a top 5 pick. They don't need a quarterback next year. If a team like Vegas, if a team like the Giants somehow are 6 or 7 and the Cowboys are 3 or something like that, let's just put it out there. Cowboys can then trade down. One of those teams would trade up, and then they can set themselves up for potentially a good draft where they need run offense and run defense. This is future talk here, but now the hope for Cowboys is keep losing, get a top 5 pick, and then let's go rolling in 2025.
It sounds pretty sad, Donnie, when you want your team to lose, huh?
Well, no. This is hopeful thinking. This is hopeful thinking. This is me being a fan of the team. Right now, we're conceding. The white flag's in. We don't want to win. Let's keep losing. And now we're setting up hope for 25. No, actually, as a fan, we're rooting to lose.
Look, I've been a part of the Sixers tank for a long time. It was wonderful. We cheered it on. And even going back to giving the Washington Commanders the division title, losing that game allowed the Eagles to draft Devonta Smith. So, yes, losing does pay dividends. If you can't win any games and make it to the playoffs, damn it, lose out.
Exactly. But speaking of football, Donnie, let's jump into it. Week 11, how was it for you? Betting was?
Good. Really good. 7-0 in the contest. Fantastic stuff.
Awesome.
Able to cash in. Got second place. Lost out on the tiebreaker, but that's everything you can ask for. I was waiting for one of these weeks to climb back up because if I can put a roll together over the next 2 to 3 weeks, climb back up there, get into the low teens, and try to figure in how I can make it into that top 5, top 10 by the end of the season. But it was a great week last week. And also, from a betting standpoint, yes, even team totals were coming in. I hit on the Chicago Bears team total, hit on the Indianapolis Colts team total, and also the Kansas City Chiefs team total. So it doesn't get any better, boys, than 7-0 in the BMR contest. Love what I saw. Bitcoin payout. Lovely. Absolutely lovely.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that awesome week, Donnie, and hopefully it'll carry forward into week number 12. Sammy, how was week 11 for you?
Yeah, I was 4-3 in the contest. Funny, I was just talking to Donnie before the show started, and I flip-flopped one of my picks on Sunday. I switched from New Orleans to Cleveland. The betting trend that crossed 0, so I followed the betting trend, and I lost. So on a contest, I could have been 5-2. But this week, in reference to the contest, again, it comes down to not only winning, but winning your strong 7-6-5 confident picks. Shout out Donnie, congrats. Him and Fried Cheese were 7-0. Fried Cheese won the tiebreaker, but again, free money each and every week just to compete. You had 5 guys at 6-1, but the tiebreaker was in reference to their confidence picks. You had Flying Illini with 26 points, Kala 56 with 24, and 4 guys tied at 23, including one guy that was 5-2, but only lost his 1-2 versus the 6-1 and losing their confidence. So again, not only is it going 6-1, 7-0, but it's winning all of those confident picks. So it's a game within a game within a game. Overall leaderboard, we actually have a new leader, 007 at 190, taking over. TT Warrior down to second, 188. Black China 186, Pi Mike 185, and Champ 2399 at 184. 6 points separates the top 5. And Donnie, I think you're sitting at 19th after a perfect 7-0 week. So we got to move back up. I'm not in it long term. I'm in it from a week to week standpoint.
All righty, Sammy. Awesome. Thank you. And guys, let's jump into a little Jake Paul Tyson recap. Donnie, let's start with you. I personally watched the whole fight. I think it was very underwhelming. I don't know if you guys watched some of the pre-fight. Netflix accidentally shown his whole ass, and there was a whole controversy over that, and then just the underwhelming nature of the fight. I sat there watching it, and I was waiting for something to happen.
No, you're right. I was excited for this fight, too. And by the way, the women's fight just before the Tyson fight was absolutely fantastic. What a brawl that was. That was the fight of the night. But there did have some funny things, which did include that Mike Tyson's son interviewing him only to see his ass cheeks on the way out. That made for a good laugh. But I'll tell you, a lot of people weren't laughing at all the buffering during that entire fight episode when everybody seemed to log in. The later it went on, because I tuned in probably about an hour and a half before the fight just to check in to see what was what. It was okay. But as it got closer to the fight, that thing was pausing. Even the second round, I had to restart Netflix at that point just to get back in. But it's exactly what I thought was going to happen. You knew Mike Tyson wasn't going to win. There was a couple of chances in the first round, like, hey, Tyson could be lively, but then he turned into a 58-year-old man and couldn't move because his legs were bad, and Jake Paul was just teeing off. But Jake Paul also understood the assignment. Winning was the most important thing for him, to move forward and continue to make money. He actually would have taken a step back if he could have, and he should have probably, knocked Tyson out in the second or third round when he started to wobble, but he sort of carried him the rest of the way. But it's about what you thought it was going to be. No way, shape, or form did I ever think Tyson was going to win. I thought Jake Paul was going to win. Whether he knocked him out was the question mark there. He didn't. You move on. Jake Paul is going to make more money in the future. Who the hell knows who he's fighting next? But I watched just about, an hour and a half of that broadcast, which included both fights, the fight before it, the women's fight, and then the Tyson fight. Thought it was interesting, though. I did.
Now, you watched it along with 108 million people around the world. One of the most live streamed events for Netflix. And, no wonder they were having so many buffering issues. I read earlier today, it's not going to go anywhere, but Netflix is now being hit with a class action lawsuit over the buffering issues. Funny to read that. I don't really expect it personally to go anywhere. Maybe Netflix will throw some people a couple free months or some discounts or something, but I highly doubt that'll happen. Sammy, your recap on the whole fight, including Tyson's ass.
Yeah, in reference to Tyson's ass, I mean, the models had their tits out. So, there's no big deal of seeing the guy with his ass out compared to the girls. Most people just didn't want to see Tyson's ass, but guess what? It is what it is. In reference to the fight, the pre-fight with Amanda versus Katie Taylor, that fight really just proves again that the judges in boxing need to be expanded, reshaped, modified, or something. Because no way did Serrano lose that fight. I'm so happy I didn't bet that fight, but because that was the way to go. It was a great fight, but there was no way that Katie Taylor won that fight. No disrespect, but the judges really, there's always so much controversy in boxing and the judges, and they need to figure out a system with that. Same with UFC, but not as much as boxing. It always seems like every major fight, the judges end up fucking it up, and which then just messes up people's interest in actually wanting to watch the sport. But if you watched last week, I said it, Jake Paul by decision was 3-1. That was the way to go. And that was the easy way to go on that plus money. That was wild for me at such good odds. So that was the way to go and won some money there. But again, is he going to fight a real boxer next? He only fought one real boxer. That was Tommy Fury, and it was his age, and he lost. So who's the next 40-year-old that he wants to fight? Or is he going to fight KSI? That's what they've been saying. He could be fighting him next. I think KSI would smoke him.
Oh, Donnie, Sammy, Sammy, you mentioned a good point about the judges, decisions in this. Moving forward, is there another way? And Donnie, we'll start with you. Is there another way in boxing that these matches can be graded?
I guess the only way to actually do that, you'll see it, and even the Olympics doesn't get it right, like ice skating. There's not like just 3 judges, because all it takes is 2 corrupt bum judges to overrule the one judge that actually called it correctly. If you add, 7, 8, 9, or 10 judges, I know it sounds crazy, you sort of even out the playing field, because if 2 judges see it a different way than you, it's like, oh, that's ridiculous. Well, if 7 or 8 judges see it differently than you, number one, it could be corruption, but number 2, maybe it's just you that saw the fight differently than just about the rest of the people or the patrons watching it. That's the only way. But unless there's knockouts, we're always going to be talking. It's like refereeing the NFL. Like, hey, how can they get that right? They're never going to get it right. There's humans. They're going to make mistakes, and some people are corrupted in the business. It's just the way boxing always has been.
Amy, your thoughts about another grading system for boxing moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, basically, you just have to add more judges and maybe not grade 9 of them, but at least maybe take the average of them or some way. Because, like Donnie says,
That makes sense. That makes sense.
3 people is a small sample size to determine what they view of it. Because guess what? The voting era, Democrat, Republican, doesn't really matter, but there's different sides to it. So you're basically saying that 3 people get to decide it. We're just like average fans. If you put 3 people in a room, they're going to be average people.
Have a
if you put
different
9 people in a room, there's going to be more of an opinion of what happened. So that simple volume, not crazy volume, just a few more people.
Right. Maybe have 10 people or whatever, 11 people. Now that
it has to be an odd number, right?
Okay. Right. Yep. But that certainly makes sense.
So either 7 or 9 is the number.
Right. Yeah. Definitely makes sense. So, Donnie, switch your focus a little bit to the NBA. What do you got tonight?
Yeah, let's take a look here. Tonight is the night, gentlemen, for the Philadelphia 76ers to win their 3rd game of the year. Good grief.
Wow.
11 on the season. How about that? They were minus one was Memphis last night. It's flipped over to the Sixers, mostly 3.5 to 4s now, as they're the favorites. Anticipation, Tyrese Maxey is back tonight on a minutes restriction. Put it this way. You lose to Miami, you were embarrassed. You call the team meeting after that game. If everybody is available against a wounded Grizzlies team and you don't win tonight, kick the franchise out of the NBA. Tonight is the night for the Philadelphia 76ers. Earlier today, 2.5 to 3s. Now it's up to 3.5 and the 4s. I still think the Philadelphia 76ers win by 5+ points. And how about this? I'm back in those New York Knicks tonight on the road, laying 5 points against the wounded Phoenix Suns, who probably only have Booker tonight, no Bradley Beal and no Kevin Durant. I think the Knicks handle their business on the road. So 2 teams from the East Coast as road warriors tonight for me, boys.
All righty, Donnie. Thank you. Sammy, over to the NBA. What do you got for us?
You missed the other road warrior, the Orlando Magic West Coast 3.5 over the Clippers, another beaten up team that, never know who's playing and not playing. But the big story in the NBA, I guess the Cavs finally went down. Great game yesterday, potential, Eastern Conference Finals based on their current records and how they're playing. But the Celtics win at home and take down the Cavs, and no more undefeated teams. Obviously, you're never going to see an undefeated one, but this late in the season, at least it's a good story for there. But yeah, I like the Magic tonight. The other games I like is Houston over Indiana, and I like Atlanta to keep it close, cover the 8 against Golden State.
All righty, Sammy. Thank you. Donnie, let's jump over to you. A little Week 12 NFL. What do you got? And who do you like this weekend for your 7?
Yeah. Not a great NFL week, by the way. Starts tomorrow night, an interesting game between Pittsburgh and Cleveland. I don't have that game on my 7-game card, but a 3.5 line. You finally start to see the weather conditions creep in, 30-degree temperatures, sleet, maybe some, snowflakes tomorrow in Cleveland. That's going to be an ugly one. But for my 7 this weekend, to start it out, Houston favored by 8.5 points over Tennessee. Houston's going to win that football game, but I think Tennessee keeps it close here and keeps it within double digits to cover that 8.5. And how about this? Another team, road warrior theme. The New England Patriots getting 7.5 from the Miami Dolphins. They have shown some life over the past couple weeks with Drake May as their quarterback. I do think the Dolphins win, but there is a slight chance for an upset there, but I think they keep it within a touchdown. Minnesota and Chicago. This one's going to be tough for me. I'm going to take the Bears at home getting 3.5. I took the Bears last week against the Packers getting 5.5 points, but now that's a little bit lower. The only question is DeAndre Swift, their nice tailback last week, scored a touchdown. They should have won that game, but they didn't. He's got a groin injury, so something to keep in mind. That may change. If he plays, I'll probably still stick with the Bears. If he doesn't, I'll probably jump off that. 3 games coming up here and all close numbers. The Seattle Seahawks at home, -0.5 point, basically a pick 'em here, going up against the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks. It's tough to win in Seattle, and I like the Cardinals. I really do. Nice win for Seattle last week on the road against the 49ers. I think the good times continue. The Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers. The Packers only favored by 2.5 points at Lambeau against a banged-up San Francisco 49ers team that didn't look all that great last week, to say the least. I'm going to take the Packers in that game, and I'm also going to take Road Warriors, the Philadelphia Eagles, on Sunday Night Football against the Rams. Puka Nacua looked great last week. Cooper Kupp looked great last week. So did Matthew Stafford. But that's the New England Patriots. The Philadelphia Eagles on Pro Football Focus, guys, the #1 ranked defense in the NFL. They'll show up, and the Eagles will win that game. Then Monday Night Football, Baltimore in Los Angeles. I think they edged the Los Angeles Chargers. That was the toughest one for me, and currently I have that ranked as a #1 for me. Not #7, as if that's my favorite. It's the least favorite I have as a 1 pick here. I think Baltimore gets the slight victory and can cover the 2.5 points.
All righty, Donnie. Thank you. Sammy, over to you for your 7. And what are you betting this weekend?
Yeah, in reference to tomorrow, definitely take the under just based off the weather category. And if you're doing it now, do it now because that line is going down. It's 37. It started at 40, and it could work its way down to 35. If the weather report actually happens, what they're saying. Then to start off on Sunday, you got Tommy Cutlets, the return of Tommy Cutlets in New York. The team stinks right now, right? They got nothing positive, but Tommy Cutlets is going back, so that the crowd is going to be.
Yes,
For him, even harder. Maybe the team comes around. I think they're going to cover the 6 at home with the return of Tommy Cutlets. And then we got a snooze fest next week against the Cowboys where we're all going to be sleeping after eating Thanksgiving. Two teams that are big favorites. Detroit -7 over Indianapolis. Detroit's 8-2 against the spread this year. They're the best team in the league right now. Until someone stops their offense, why would you not continue to keep betting them? And again, they're 8-2 against the spread, -7. Take them over Indianapolis. Washington -10 over Dallas. Dallas stinks. We said it earlier. Dallas is trying, and they're getting steamrolled the last 2 weeks. So no reason to think that they're not going to be any better on the road. The run defense continues to stink. Washington has a great offense, great running game as well. I like Washington -10. As my 7 pick, Donnie mentioned it. I like Green Bay -2.5 over San Fran. If Nick Bosa isn't playing, when he got off the field last week, they gave up 2 touchdowns in 2 drives, and they lost that game the second that Nick Bosa went out of the game. If he's not there, there's no chance that they're going to win. I mean, Green Bay's the better team, and at home, I feel like they should be 4.5 points here. The fact that they're less than a field goal, yes, I'll be taking that. And then the last 3, I'm going to feel like a sharp versus a square here because some of these lines as home underdogs by a field goal. So I'm not going to take the square side in my mind, which was almost like Baltimore last week -3 versus Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh wins straight up. So I think at least 2 out of the 3 here are going to win straight up. Chicago +3.5 over the Vikings. It's super square to take the Vikings. They're 8-2. Chicago has lost 4 straight. The line just feels off. The Vikings started -5. Now it's down to 3.5. Again, Chicago can easily be down by 10, backdoor cover, or, Vikings win by a field goal. I'm going to take that +3.5 there. The Rams +3 versus the Eagles. The Eagles have won 6 straight. They're probably the second best team in the NFC behind Detroit. The Rams have won 4 out of 5. They're looking good too. That offense is back with their top 2 wide receivers back. Again, this feels like Sunday Night Football. Home atmosphere +3 points. You just got to be on the home side of things. And then lastly, Monday Night Football with Baltimore. Baltimore, again, back-to-back -3 point on the road. I'm going to take the home team, the better playing team, 7-3. Take the Chargers +3 at home. So I just feel like all 3 of these are the quote-unquote sharp side versus the square side. Typically, I'm on the square side. And again, I'm not saying that it is square versus sharp, but in my mind, I'm hoping at least 2 out of those 3 home cover less than a field goal lines.
All righty, Sammy. Thank you. And guys, if you want to get your hands on some more Bowler coins, this coming Friday, we're going to have our next Bowler coin. We have our next Tournament of Champions event to get your hands on some Bowler coins. So you still have plenty of time to get your hands on a Tournament Event Champions ticket. So definitely go ahead and get into that. Sammy, Donnie, I say it each and every week. Love to see you guys involved in that as well. But guys, you know what? Yeah, I was going to jump into college. Before we jump into college, let's talk some UNLV food prices. It's Vegas. Things are expensive, Sammy. But let me break these numbers down for you. This guy at a UNLV football game, he had a suite, $300 for a pizza, $190 for some chicken tenders, $112.70 administration charge, which is just laughable. What? But your total came out to $653.18
for pizza and
for pizza and wings. I don't get it. Explain
it is pretty wild. Sometimes you pay based off the location that you're at, right? A bottle of water is $1, but if you're at the airport, it's $6. If you're at a game, it's $10. If you're at a Vegas suite, it's $50. I remember when I used to go to Vegas and we used to, rent out a sports book and we used to have a seat and everything, or we had a bar tab minimum of like $800 or $1,000, and you're like, oh God, that's going to be so hard. And then you look at the menu and a bottle of Grey Goose is $325, a bottle of Jack is $250. So sometimes you're paying for the atmosphere, you're paying for the convenience, you're paying for the location, you're paying for the whole spectrum of where you're at. Sometimes you know that going into it. If that guy blindly got that bill, that sucks, but if you're getting a box, you're probably knowing the price going into it. Absolutely ridiculous in every way, shape, or form, but you somewhat know what you're getting into going into it. And my guess is that he looked at the menu, saw the price, and still, the fact that he posted it is, at least stirs the debate up, but
Exactly.
He probably knew what he was getting into, you know what I mean?
Most likely. Donnie, your thoughts on this?
I mean, we're not like, maybe
Ridiculous.
You can get me on this, boys, with the Super Bowl, right? Like, hey, the Super Bowl charged me this much in a booth, but a UNLV game, you've got to be kidding me. And it made me think, like, were they getting pizza for the entire box, like 16 people, and chicken tenders for the entire box full of people, 16, 17 people? No, that's outrageous. Like, sooner than later, people will stop paying attention to nonsense like that. I can't imagine that, because even rich people don't like to get ripped off here. Yes, they have plenty of money, but the last thing you want to see is, what did I get? What did I pay for? You got to be kidding me. I don't know how they get away with charging those prices. Just crazy talk.
This right here is what you paid for.
Like, oh, how much was that? How much was the pizza? That one pizza was a couple $100.
Yep, $300. The pizza was $300. The wings were $190. The tenders were $190.
God.
Shout out to a great guy, Bill Krakenberger, for sharing that on X. But ridiculous. Ridiculous. But Sammy, let's talk some college football. Did you have anything last weekend in college? And what do you got this upcoming weekend?
Yeah, I went 2-1 last week in college. I always keep a light card, basically bet the big games of the week, which we got a big top 5 matchup this week. But first, I want to talk about the rankings a little bit. Number 1, you got Oregon, the number 1 seed. They're 11-0. Indiana at 5, another 10-0 team. And then the last undefeated, Army. They might go down this week to Notre Dame, but you got a few undefeated teams left. But it's sometimes funny how the rankings work, because it's not sometimes when you lose the game, because right now, Alabama is ranked 4 points higher than Tennessee, and Tennessee beat them head-to-head. Both of them are 8-2, but Alabama has won 3 straight. Tennessee just lost, which is why, from a ranking standpoint, they probably put them higher. But from a logical standpoint, you think Tennessee beat Alabama, they should be, ranked a little bit higher. But I think, we'll see what happens long-term there, but at least they're in the playoffs as of now. But yeah, back to the game of the week. You got Ohio State versus Indiana. Ohio State at home, number 2 in the country. Indiana at number 5, still undefeated. The coach just got a monster fat contract. I'd like to see Indiana keep it close here and cover that 13. And like I also mentioned with Army, they're undefeated. I think they're going to lose to Notre Dame, but I'm going to get them to cover the plus 14 against Notre Dame. And then I like Alabama minus 13.5 over Oklahoma. And then the last game is Arizona State minus 3 over BYU.
Thank you, Sammy. Appreciate that. And good luck on all the action. Donnie, over to you. Last but certainly not least, let's get a little college football preview this weekend. And how was last weekend for you?
Yeah, the college football rankings to me also interesting that Boise is basically going to be a number 4 seed, which means they get the bye and play wherever that bowl game is instead of playing a round 1 game, maybe on the road. That's interesting to me. We'll see how that plays out, but a lot of football left on the ground. Had a pretty good week last week. Hit a parlay in that Tennessee-Georgia game. I had Frazier and Sampson to score a touchdown and both of the running backs to get 50 yards. That one cashed in. That was fantastic to watch it play out. This week, Indiana and Ohio State. That line opened up 9.5, up to now 13.5, 13s across the board. Indiana hasn't played anybody yet at this point now. I see that total at 51.5. I'm actually going under. Colder temperatures in Ohio State, everything on the line for both of these teams. I think it stays under that number of 51.5. Then I'm going to go the opposite. Vanderbilt, LSU. LSU got knocked out last week, so they can do whatever they want this weekend. And Vanderbilt's had a pretty good offense in the SEC, something they typically don't have. I'm going to go over 53.5 points in that game. So an under and an over for me this weekend. One game at noon, one game at 7:45 Eastern.
All righty. Thank you, Sammy. And thank you, Donnie, both for your participation this week. Guys, good luck on all your action. Best of luck. Cash those tickets, and we will see you guys around the forum.
See ya.